Hey, how's it going, gang? Today is gonna be different. In every video I've made so far, don't bother checking, there isn't many, I had made something along the lines of me drawing. However, today is going to be a little different. Recently, a very popular debate was going around, more like a month ago now, but, who would win? 100 men versus 1 gorilla, straight hands, no weapons. I'm not going to voice my opinion because all of you will get mad, but I will say the average gorilla has enough bite force to eat a bowling ball and has the raw strength to crush a human skull, let alone any bone, with ease. The average gorilla, by the way. When I was at work, I had an interesting thought. Who would win in a battle? 100 humans facing off 1 monkey Pokemon. Before we get into this nonsense, let me set up some ground rules. First, these Monkey-Mon will only come in a singular version. 1 Mankey, 1 Oranguru, etc. Second, these fights come one after another. As if they spawn into a flat area, the men are instantly healed physically and mentally and put up against the next Pokemon. Third, all of these fights are under the assumption that both sides want the other side dead. So no, after 1 death, it'll scare off this Pokemon or this human, or some stupid argument like that. Finally, this won't incorporate in-game performance, such as this will all be on the lines of Pokemon's in-lore ability. Only things that will be referenced are abilities, movesets, and types, although I do take stats into account for some reason, but I'm not editing the script, so cute. To make this fight fair, it will be 100 men that have above average strength and endurance. Nothing exceptional, but if some average Joe Schmo went up against a Mankey, they will die. Without any further ado, let's let this monkey business unfold. First monkey on the list is the Monkey. So much so that their name was changed to avoid getting sued by the ape population. Mankey. In lore, it is said that Mankey is easily angered and will attack anything without reason whatsoever, and that it is unsafe for the target to be around it when it is angry. Being light and agile on their feet, while funnily enough being angered by their loneliness if they lost their group. Their abilities consist of Vital Spirit, Anger Point, and Defiant. Vital Spirit only prevents the sleep condition, while Anger Point and Defiant are the really good heavy hitters. Anchor Point is when the ability user is inflicted with a critical attack, their attack raises by a stage. Defiant raises the attack by 2 stages when a stat lowers. This is a good one, yeah, but I doubt humans could lower its stat stages unless they threw dirt into its eyes. So overall, 100 men versus 1 singular Mankey, this would be interesting, I guess, but I would have to give it to the 100 men. They easily take him out. The Mankey goes into violent and uncontrollable frenzies and will not hesitate to attack anything. However, there's 100 men. There will be some casualties, maybe, but the men would probably figure out a way to get the Mankey to sit still. Next in the ring is the evolution, Primeape. Primeapes are a huge step up from Mankey, somewhat, with the same abilities as them, and now coming in weighing at 3'3", which is maybe almost a foot taller, and 70 pounds. They're not much bigger than a Mankey, but big enough to probably be a problem. But now let's look at his lore. Firstly, when angered, it will not end its chase until it catches the runner, no matter how far they get away. This automatically gives Primeape points for endurance. So you can't go all oh, he'll get tired eventually because it's 100 guys. No. It says no matter how far they go. They will not stop fighting until every last man has fallen. Then the deck says that when in rage, their blood circulation increases drastically, leading to an increase in strength, making them less intelligent, however. But they got hands, so who cares? Oh, did I mention that running makes them angrier, which leads to them getting stronger because of more blood circulation? Primeape wins this. I do suspect maybe some difficulty reaching the 70s. Maybe, but Primeape will come out on top. Next is the final evolution in this line, Annihilate. This Pokemon is just about the same stats-wise as Primeape, pretty much 1-to-1 in terms of game stats, but now has the ability Inner Focus, replacing Anger Point. inner focus makes it so that way the Pokemon with this ability cannot be flinched. Now, a fighting ghost type, because this is what happens when a Primeape dies, but they're too angry to die, so they refuse and come back to life. It's literally the Doomslayer meme. Their 2 dex entries so far say that when their anger reaches a critical point, they unlock a hidden power that is untamed, unfettered, if you will, by their own body's limits. This allows them to imbue their fists with such a strength, so powerful, that the enemy is struck and shattered to their very core. Annihilate wins this, no contest. Next up, Aipom. This funny little hand-tail spider monkey thing is based on spider monkeys, obviously. Runaways, as the name implies, the Pokemon can and will always escape a battle with a wild Pokemon without fail, no matter what precautions the opposite Pokemon took to make sure that they can't run away. Pickup is just so that way when an opposite Pokemon uses a one-use item, the Pokemon with Pickup can pick it up and use it. Skill Link is an ability that makes it so that way any multi-hit moves can and will hit for their maximum hit number. For example, Double Kick will always hit twice, and Fury Swipes will always hit 6. These fellows will be easier to see and grab because they are a foot taller than Mankey, so humans will have a better chance of winning, I guess. In its lore, Aipom's tail is strong enough to hold it in the air from a tree branch, and that they use their tail so much that their regular hands have become less adept. Aipom, despite being a silly fellow, unfortunately will lose to the men. The tail is only strong enough to grab a branch and lift their body weight. Their other hands aren't feasible for combat either, so they're just going to get bodied. Now, Ambipom is a different story. Ambipom are taller with 2 tails instead of 1. Their abilities are the same, but Runaway has been replaced with Technician. Technician is an ability to make weaker moves stronger. If a move has 60 base power or lower, they get a 50% increase. In their lore, Ambipom's regular arms are no longer too hardly used. However, their tails are extremely difficult to dodge from attacks. Its moveset is filled with moves that are low in power, so Technician is very viable, and knows the move Last Resort, but will fail if Ambipom doesn't use its other abilities first. I do think that Ambipom would still lose though. Hard to tell, but it would likely get overwhelmed by the men really fast. Don't get me wrong, Ambipom has really good power increase from Aipom, but I don't think it would be enough to take on 100 men and win. I would mention Slack Off, but it's a sloth that hardly moves and is so lazy that it sleeps for 20 hours a day. This thing is gonna die because it either won't move, is asleep, or moves as fast as close to nothing. Vigoroth, on the other hand, is the opposite of Slack Off. It cannot sit still for the life of it. In lore, it runs for hours through mountains and fields to run itself out. Otherwise, it can't sleep from being unable to sit still. It also has the Vital Spirit ability, but doesn't help out much. Vigoroth is gonna get beat with some diff. It won't sit still, so it'll be hard to catch, and will just beat the shit out of any man blocking its way, but 100 men could easily beat it. I would need like a confirmed like highest speed it can run, because if it can blitz the 100 men, then by God it can win, but right now, no. I realized just now while editing that sloths are nowhere near related to monkeys, so I'm not going to cut this out. So let's finish with Slacking and just move along. Slacking easily wins. Just take a look at its stat total. It has legendary stats. It is by all means a pseudo-legendary, but isn't considered much of it because of its ability Truant. Truant is the ability where the Pokemon affected will only attack every other turn. This is what makes Slacking not really a pseudo despite its stats. However, I had stated earlier that in this battle, both sides want to kill each other. They will not stop until they see the other dead. This means that Truant no longer exists because we witnessed something truly horrifying. a slacking that isn't lazy. Next on the list is Chimchar, the first starter of this video, in like one of two. Chimchar is a little fire monkey in the Sinnoh region. It has the abilities Blaze, Iron Fist, and that's it. Blaze increases the power of fire type moves, and Iron Fist increases the power of any, quote, punching moves. So like Mach Punch, Focus Punch, Power Up Punch, if that's still a thing. Both are really good and can be essential to fighting the 100 men. Though, fire is slower at defeating the 100 men than punching moves, but fire is good for crowd control. In the lore, it's able to scale mountains and cliffs agilely. Yep, and has a fart flame on it that can't not be put out by rain. And I'm not kidding about the fart flame, by the way. It was also known as Lantern Tail back in the early days of Pokemon, so like Kasui era, and was feared as being some sort of bad omen or something like that. Since Chimchar doesn't learn very many good moves before leveling up into its evolutions, even with the abilities it has, I'm going to say the 100 men win against this little fella, but Chimchar is agile. However, it can be easy to catch and beat since it doesn't learn any punching moves in its early moves for level up. Monferno is interesting. Same abilities, better stats, but Dex entries say that it uses ceilings and walls to launch fearsome attacks and use their fire tail to intimidate and keep enemies at a controlled distance by manipulating the length of the fire on their tail. This would be a good thing to add if I had not added the rule that both sides want to see the other side dead and won't stop until they achieve it. Though, upon evolving, Monferno gains Mach Punch and eventually gets close combat and the like, making punching moves way more helpful. I think Monferno would win by just abusing the hell out of Mach Punch or any other punching move, speed blitzing them and knocking them out, or just straight up killing them in one hit and moving on to the next. Infernape is no question. Every single man is going to die. You see how far it went out in the anime alone? In the Dex entries, it is said not to be beaten in terms of speed. You cannot beat it. Using special martial arts techniques that it made itself, using every single limb on its body, taking on any opponent, Infernape will win via Speed Blitz. Now we move on to another set of monkeys, the Pan and Simi-Mons from Unova. I hate these Mons as much as the next guy, but they deserve a chance, right? Pansage and Simisage are likely going to be beat. Even though they have overgrown gluttony, it's not going to do much against some 100 dudes that will just eat them alive. Pansage is only described to have leaves on their head that reduces stress, and Simisage is just some gangster hoodlum thing that fights with its barbed tail. They're not going to stand for very long. It doesn't matter what kind of seed bomb or solar beam they throw, they're going to get their ass kicked. Panpour and Simipour can actually stand a chance, even though they're my least favorite out of the Simis. Well, not Panpour, he's dead, but Simipour can actually win as long as he has a source of water to keep it going if overwhelmed. Torrent helps increase the power of water moves, and the water Simipour shoots out from its tail is powerful enough to destroy concrete walls. It will have no problem cutting through humans. Panpour loses easily. Simipour wins easier. Pansear and Simisear actually both stand a solid chance. Having Blaze to assist their fire type attacks, Pansear's head tuft can reach a devastating 600 degrees Fahrenheit or 315 Celsius, and Simisear using their fire and scattering it onto enemies, both, if they maintain a good distance, can burn the enemies down and win. Congrats to Pansear, by the way, for being the first basic Pokemon to win the 100 men bout. Both regular and Galarian Darumaka are little balls of good fortune and local legend with the abilities Hustle and Inner Focus. Hustle increases the attack by 50%, but lowers physical move accuracy by 20%. It's a gamble, but could work in their favor. Regular Darumaka have an internal temperature of 1100 degrees Fahrenheit when they sleep, and have hot droppings. Apparently, Galarian Darumaka have lived in the ice for so long that their fire sac in their body, like their internal heat temperature, just cooled and became a source of cold ice instead of fire, their breath making a good ammo for snowballs. These little balls of joy, unfortunately, will not make the Battle of 100 Men easy to win. They just kind of lose. They're just too easy to get a hold of and just beat the shit out of them. But justice will be served for them because the Darminitans are here for vengeance, having sheer force and Zen mode to help them engage in battle. Zen mode is an ability where the Pokemon transforms into this new form when their HP is halved. They look like this. Regular Darmanitan's internal fire grows so hot that it can destroy large vehicles with a singular punch. Large as in a dump truck. Galarian Darminitans are about the same, but have a more gentle disposition. When in Zen mode, they will spew fire everywhere until their rage is settled. In Zen mode, the Darmanitan fights on with their psychic abilities, and their body hardens, making it hard for them to fight with physical attacks, which shows in their stats. Well, Galarian Darmanitan gets a higher attack stat to keep raging, but nonetheless, their huge capability and sheer strength and size gives them the easiest win imaginable right here. Justice was well served for the fallen Darumaka. Grookey is a large skip from Darmanitan in terms of generation, despite Galarian Darmanitan being in the same generation, but I don't give a shit. Grookey is the second and last monkey starter we have on this list. The ability Overgrow and Grassy Surge, which kind of act the same, but Grassy Surge mimics grassy terrain with Overgrow's help of increasing power of grass type attacks. Grookey, in the dex entries, is stated to attack extremely fast with the rhythm of its sticks, giving energy to the plants around them while also getting more pumped the more it hits with its sticks. I think I'll give this fight to Grookey with its abilities stated in lore and it getting more pumped with more ass kicking it does. I think he'll just speed blitz them with the sticks and just use its grassy moveset to keep the others distracted while it beats up the person he's on. Thwackey, however, is low-key a different story. Thwackey is just about the same as Grookey, though I think this one may lose. In the dex entries, it's said that the more into the rhythm it gets with its sticks, it may forget that it just knocked out the opponent. So it will keep going after it's been knocked out, giving room for 100 men to get some strikes in on it. Though if it can keep itself generally focused, it can win. But this one, I will say, is actually a tie. The first and only tie of the video. It really depends if Thwackey gets too locked in. Rillaboom itself is interesting, based on British rock bands and stuff like the Beatles, and has a very calm disposition, valuing harmony amongst its troop. But in this case, it wants to see the 100 men on the floor, probably in a bloody mess. The stump it drums on follows its direction in battle. This leaves Rillaboom to be better with crowd control when manipulating the roots of its stump. This means that as long as it's locked in enough, unlike Thwackey, Rillaboom will win this fight. Now we move on to Zarude. This Pokemon has the ability Leaf Guard, which doesn't allow it to succumb to major ailments during the sunny day conditions. Or, you know. However, this won't help much in case of 100 men, since they can't inflict poison, burn, or paralyze. It's also just a legendary monkey. Like, look at its stats. Like, one of these 6-foot-ish monkeys can annihilate any man with its aggression anyway. Oranguru normally would win this fight if it had control over other Pokemon, but we'll do some stat checks anyway. The abilities it have are Inner Focus and Telepathy, which allows it to not take damage from any ally attacks that would normally affect it, and Symbiosis, which is just giving an ally their item. These abilities aren't particularly helpful unless you're on a team. At least one doesn't allow it to be flinched, I guess. I don't know, man. Oranguru sucks in this type of thing. The Pokedex says that it meditates a lot in treetops. It doesn't respect novice trainers, gets into battles of wit with Slowking, and fights other Oranguru to determine who is superior. Their best quality is that they're capable of giving orders to other Pokemon just like a trainer. But with said Pokemon absent, they aren't exactly that battle ready against 100 men. It could definitely last pretty long with its psychic type moves, but eventually it will just get its ass kicked. Since Uranguru is more useful with more Pokemon. Same goes for Passimian. Passimian in the Pokedex are said to be stronger in larger groups, in that they have great teamwork skills. Their biggest weapon is the nut they carry around, but it isn't too great of a weapon unless they can keep themselves and the nut together and moving around. Though, since their power is better in a pack, so are humans. And in this case, it's just one Passimian versus 100 men. It doesn't win this time. For the last monkey of the video, we have Monkey Dory. This one is interesting. This mon isn't built for the fighting portion of this when it comes to, hand-to-hand combat. It has to go through this, but it has other ways to keep fighting. Toxic Chain, its ability, induces bad poisoning when making contact with a foe. Though, this is only by chance. The Dex entries say that it keeps itself in a safe space to toy with its foes using their psychic abilities. Monkey Dory can win this if he keeps himself at a safe distance, but the moment the men reach him, it's over. I will give this a Monkey Dory since his intelligence outmatches all the men here, and he's a legendary, so what you gonna do, man? Let's take a look at the win count, because we just went through every single Monkey-Mon currently in Pokemon. Did the Pokemon take the win home, or did somehow humanity pull out supreme? Out of the 28 Pokemon here are the wins in which humanity took the top. The humans won against these Pokemon listed: Mankey, Aipom, Ambipom, Slackoth, Vigoroth, Chimchar, Pansage, Simisage, Panpour, Darumaka, Thwackey, Oranguru, and Passimian. That makes a total of 13 Pokemon they defeated with their above average strength/endurance, and just sheer numbers. Unfortunately, that number is under half of the Pokemon here, giving up the majority to the Pokemon. As I expected, the Pokemon remained supreme, but humanity did surpass my expectations for how many we did here. So, good job, humans. You did well enough, I suppose. Anyways, thank you for watching this banter of a video. I got really cool art video coming along on the way for you guys, so it should be out sometime soon. Before you click off, go below this video and subscribe to my channel, and please turn on notifications, because otherwise YouTube just won't notify you until way after the video comes out. It's stupid, I know. While you're there, go ahead and join my Discord server. We do events there sometimes where I redraw your mons. Speaking of, because I haven't had a event in a long time, and someone in the server asked me, I'd like you guys to take an Objectmon and turn them into something not object. If you watch Little Yoga Man, you'll think that I'm copying him. I sort of am, but it'll line up with the next video. Trust me, it's creative. I'm sorry, Lincoln. Forgive me, bruh. Well, time to hide from Nintendo again. Gorilla would win and you'd fucking know.